Hey, if Griselda can't do nothing else, them boys can stick to a formula. And that's really all I need from this project. The first Everybody is Food was fire. Lyricism was some of Conway's best up to that point in his career. Plus, he started expanding himself a little bit with his beat selection, experiment just a tad. Then on top of that, 2018 Griselda was just a cheat code in and of itself. So let's get to it.
002s, the black and red Geigers. I clapped the back his head, rapping lead fire. I don't care what a rapper said, they're liars. They don't want smoke, they pussy, they wouldn't dare try us.
I'm telling you, straight cheat code. That nigga came out the gate with that rapid internal rhyme scheme and then the 3 syllable at the end of the bar. For them first 4 bars, almost everything was rhyming.
Get out of pocket, I'ma crack his egg. Had niggas eternally napping like he dead tired. Eternally sleep.
Napping dead tired. I like how he's still using that S sound as an internal.
Smoking like B Real, burning Khalif. 200 P's, told the plug I return every week.
That 4 syllable right here.
Niggas heard it was sweet. You throw shots, we returning them free. I go and check the stats, homie, look it over. City put on my shoulders, yeah, right on top where the bullet hole was.
That's hard. That's hard. Sitting on my back on top of where the bullet hole was, referring to when he got shot in his back and neck. That's tough.
Tanks in the wall, got the koi fishes, oyster dishes, pulling off in Royce's, nigga.
Hey, tough opener. That's picking up right where you left off on the first Everybody is Food. You can already see with just the production credits that he's stepping away from his typical camouflage monk Derringer sound that's gotten him up to this point in his career. You can kind of see him laying the foundations of when he really started playing around with more polished beats on his later projects like From King to a God or God Don't Make Mistakes. This beat in particular seemed like a mesh between his really grimy songs from like A Reject 2 and a really polished beat from one of those 2 albums I previously mentioned, where you got that eerie siren sound, this synth filling out the bulk of the beat, but then you got this watery sound. I think it was reverb, keys, and guitars playing at the same time. Could be wrong on that, but that sound in particular sounded smooth and jazzy, and then you had the smooth drums under it. It made for a good beat, and Conway rapping, dog. Opening rhyme scheme was impressive. Conway's usual style is he'll take one rhyme scheme, whether it be a 3 syllable or 4 syllable, and he'll just use it back to back to back. But it seems like in 2018, he's really been flashing those internals, and that's what he did to start the verse, and then he moved to his regular back to back 4 syllable style, which is still hard. Nigga was talking grimy, nigga was talking slick. Thought he had a sick verse. This is Mayblock. The sample sound like a Castlevania type beat. Sound like niggas finna go stick up a haunted house. I like the sample though.
You can see it in my eyes. You can see it in my eyes, nigga. Every bitch is on the same shit. I'll fuck around and get you lined. I'll get you lined up.
Oh, you like a bralette chick. Imagine catching a body on a date night.
Shit you niggas dropped and that shit weak. I pop a nigga in his chest and make his whole shit leak. I ain't fighting niggas, I'ma give you a slug first. My OG looked at me and said I got bloodthirst, but don't think it's a pussy nigga right in the cell. They hit the yard and did 20 sets of pull-ups for real. Yeah. My hood made me a killer, nigga.
Hey, that street talk be so vivid. I believe everything he said until he said 20 sets of pull-ups. Nigga, that's a lot of pull-ups. I don't think I'm buying that one, but all the murders, I believe that.
My little nigga still right around with his pole in him. I point a nigga out, he gon' go put a hole in him. He only 17, mama can't get control of him. She might as well give up, the devil done got a hole in him.
I was about to say, you trying to train a child at 17? At that point, you down 30 with 2 minutes left. You might as well give it up.
Wasn't around little brother, he got smoked. His older brother only got a dub, so they got hope. That's why he run up on you, busting shots till his Glock broke. I told you I'm the grimiest of all when I drop go.
I think that's a pretty good song. I think the verses didn't have nearly the lyricism as Fentanyl did. First verse was all 2 syllable rhyme schemes, very few internal rhymes, and then same thing with the second verse. And he sprinkled in a couple of more complex rhyme schemes, I think at the beginning and the end of the verse. But I think what made that verse good was how grimy it was. I really feeling the storytelling, and then that second verse remind me of the little bit of storytelling he did on his song Shark Guts on No One Mourns the Wicked. Like if you listen to that song, it literally sounded like he was talking about the exact same dude in both of them. Beat was pretty good from Alchemist. I think it was better than the first beat. I will say that was like a regular day in the office type beat from Alchemist. He normally can find a little bit more interesting samples, but I think it still got the job done. Grimy vibe to it though to match the lyrics. This is PainKillers.
The wax worm wrapped around the swisher. Don't make
These first 3 beats sound so cohesive because they all have super heavy processing on them. The instruments either sound super reverbed out or, like in the instance with these drums, they sound muffled.
Drinking Henny on the bench in the Sumner houses with Ella. The flow 6 sound vanilla. I would slap a nigga with the power of 1,000-pound gorilla. I don't respect
That's such a basic lie, but I like that the lyricism is back.
jaws, I break
Good rhyme schemes.
I don't buy chains, I take them. Lobster tail and
That's
fillets,
hard.
I was just eating steak 'em.
Nigga, what is steakum? Did that nigga just use a full government name for steak?
Alexander Wang on my bitch, thing on my head. Think this shit a game, you get hit.
I
I'm
like
from Maine,
this
black
law.
boy, this shit is dangerous, bitch. You gotta be a gangster just to even hang on my strip.
Cool song, I don't think nothing too crazy. Beat is pretty tame, but I do like how sonically all the songs flow together well so far. Beat had a little polish to it too, like the first track. Conway's rapping, I think the lyricism and the rhyme structure was better than it was on PainKillers. He did take a step back as far as that grimy imagery, where on this song it was like a loose brag here, a loose gun bar here, and the focus was really on how he moved through these syllables. Overall, I think it's solid. I don't think it was crazy. This is Hide the Body. Yo, this beat right here is grimy. It sounds a lot like a Big Ghost beat that I think came out before this song, Potato Eaters with Uncle John off of their Van Ghost album. It's gotta be the exact same sample.
Bandoed and hide the body. Took police a whole month to find the body. We the mob, so I'm a Diet Gotti. G-Wagon, iron body. Skyscraper loft with a quiet lobby. I try to...
Yeah, dang, Benny came on 10. We ain't get no warning. We ain't even get an AO. We ain't get no butcher coming. Nigga just came through and spaz. But the Monster Diet Gotti line, that was hard. The rhyme scheme flow, fire. And then it play out the Hide the Body rhyme scheme that Conway started it with.
It's water whip, then my click can tell. Dope boys hit my cell. Sat on the paper so long, it's getting stale.
That's
Julian
a
Club,
bar,
eating
dog.
lobster, fried rice. Chicken bottoms got spikes. Young riders got life. Slum product, high price. Drug violence, black fights. Plus niggas I used to roll with is rich
Chemistry
for
is
making
too crazy. It was already sick when they were going 4 lines apiece, but the line for line, dog.
Plotting to shoot. Same 40 belows, I seen pot rocking and juice. Tuck the 30 shot I got for a deuce. Yo, it's a dread. You put a pick in your head, but you not from the roots. I'm the best, the shit I dropped was the...
Yo, who told Benny to be punching like this? Picking your head, not from the roots. I Questlove you having that pick in his head. Come on, man.
I send a kite behind the wall, get him shot for a suit. Not so big, keep busting the rubber bands off, hustle brands off. I can't call another man boss. I own properties, I don't got no fucking landlord. Put it in
fire
Gucci,
rhyme
I told her
scheme.
take them fucking vans off. Gun in hand, I'm dumping like Dutter Man, y'all. Turn your back on the thief or you cut his hands off.
Nigga, that song is disgusting. Benny and Conway came through with that co-defendants in a homicide type energy. Niggas going down together for what they did to that beat. The beat itself was fire, even though I'm pretty sure I heard that beat before from Big Ghost. It's sick regardless. And then, nigga, the rapping from Benny and Conway, the chemistry between them two going back and forth, and I especially like when they were going bar for bar like halfway through the song. Even though you can't really separate the two with how interlocked their verses were, Benny did have some really heavy hitting lines. Some of the heaviest hitting lines in the whole album. That Questlove bar was fire. The Paper Getting Stale line, the John Gotti line. Yeah, song was fire. Best song on the album. This is Cocaine Paid.
Jumped out the Lambo truck with my chain swinging. Bust down the cube and see my chain gleaming.
Out the gate, to me, this sounds like one of them songs where Conway had a verse and then they tried to reverse engineer a beat from that. Cause to me, this flow don't really go with the trap vibe, at least off these first couple of lines.
I'm on top now, I ain't leaving. Catch me on the interstate, weaving in and out of lanes, speeding.
Yeah, his flow seemed like an 8th count off.
Niggas gangsters on the internet, but they don't even want a little smoke. Two pussy niggas talking crazy, I'll send a shooter to come drill both. Deep inside, I know they just mad cause they 40-something and they still broke.
Okay, this verse right here sound like it fit the beat. The first one didn't. This sounds like a trap flow right here.
sending boxes from Cali, vacuum seal smoke.
Hey, second verse, say that song, because it's finna get all type of slander from me. B had potential. I think those watery keys with the little strings accented, I think that sample sounded pretty smooth, but they messed it up with these stock sounding drums. These drum patterns sound like something that come preloaded on GarageBand. Like, them drums sounded free. And I'm not a trap hater at all. I like trap in general. That's that George in me. I even like when Conway does trap on certain songs, especially on like La Machina. But this one there, that first beat, it sounded slightly off. And then trap normally has that stop-start flow where you let the beat breathe a little bit. Not even that this is a beat deserving of that, but the flow in that first verse just didn't feel like it fit. But then the second verse, they did do the Odell Beckham one-handed catch to save this song from going to the trash can. Second flow was pretty smooth. It wasn't nothing groundbreaking lyrically, neither from a content perspective or a rhyme scheme perspective, but it did work sonically. Not a fan of that song. This is G Money on the Roof.
I watch niggas that I love turn pussy on me. I watch niggas I fuck with start switching on me. I watch bitches that I love act different on me. I thought you had love for me. Why you switching on me?
That chorus sound like the budget version of the Bitch You Shot Steel chorus.
You snitched on your homie, I seen your paperwork. Your man, nigga. Pop in front of his son, make it hurt. That was some news, I ain't know how to take it first. Wanted to pop his brother too and make it worse. When the last time you called to check on the guys, just to make sure they ain't in jail and they still alive.
Seen beloveds that I love fucking it up. I only see you on the gram, we ain't busting it up. Relationship like coke, we ain't cutting it up. You concentrate on them hoes, we ain't kicking with us. Damn.
Alright, we back on track. I'm rocking with that song. The only thing I didn't like was that chorus. I think it was pretty redundant and it wasn't that catchy. It did add to the content of the song, which is a plus. Two pretty dope verses from Conway and Fentanyl. I made a Bitch You Shot Steel reference, and this song had very similar content, touching on loyalty and people switching up. This wasn't the most lyrical verse from Conway, but I do appreciate when his verses do hone in on a particular topic. And then Fentanyl verse played right into the theme of the song as well. And then his verse portrayed a little bit more anger to it, which was dope. I think that matches the energy of his delivery. And then the backdrop to it was one of the more textured beats on this album. Still has that muffled reverb sound that a lot of the tracks on this album did. Sonically, even if I don't like every single beat here, the beats are super cohesive, but that was a dope song. This is Overdose.
Bullet hit his heart, shit is getting dark, and the shooter didn't give it no thought. He just put a clip in his spark, on foot, dipping the
This flow is crazy.
Every time I've written the dark, all my lyrics, shooter got bloodthirst, stabbed in my back so much love.
This is so vivid, dog.
Just for the way we keep winning, like me and Benny, Scotty, and Jordan. And I'm highly regarded as my young boy on parole for a gun, he still got it regardless. I don't rap beef, I will slap shit, hollow tips blew off and chew off your flesh. Coke turn your nose red like Rudolph, the best. Fuck your bulletproof vest, get it blew off your chest, nigga.
This rhyme scheme right here inspired. And then he's using the first two syllables of this 4-syllable rhyme scheme as the internal too.
I will move off the steps, who y'all? Nigga, I am what you call a vet.
Man, that song ain't regular at all. That song is tough. You really see Conway experimenting with different sounds on the first F.O.O.D and then this one. This right here was different. I know pretty much this entire album's been minimal, but this beat was just like the skeletons of a beat. You really just had that simple bass line that was driving the bulk of the beat, and then you had some keys and the cymbal hits, but you had a bunch of space in the beat, and Conway filled it with a sick flow, that spoken word type bouncy flow. Then the rhyme schemes was some of the best in the whole album. He was talking, everything was vivid. You had this mix of imagery and personal lines. Behind High the Body, I think this is probably the second best song on the album. Super out of the box. Excellent execution. This is Be Proud of Me.
I don't know why you feeling so entitled. When I ain't had no money to eat, I couldn't find you. Where was you? Niggas ain't real when they always remind you. You mad cause you asked for a favor and I declined you. And deep down, I know you cared for me. I know you cared. But mentally, I needed you there for me. You ain't got that much love for me, apparently. You talked down on me in front of my son and embarrassed me. Yeah, I still remember what you said. Nigga, you over 30, all that rapping shit is dead. You need to go and find you a job and get you some bread. Ain't you tired of being broke and sleeping at dread?
That's a solid track. I will say that upbeat instrumental is a little bit jarring compared to the other production on this album, but I still think it was a pretty good beat. Drum sounded pretty good. That constant synth note gave the song this vintage vibe, and it played into the main part of the sample really well. I respect the substance that we getting from Conway. The criticism that I had in a lot of his prior albums was that once you get towards the end of the album, all the verses start sounding interchangeable because it's same content from song to song and then similar rhyme style. For this song, I don't think it had the same level of lyricism as some of the best songs in this album, but the content that we're getting, him diving into these relationships and his psyche, at this point in the time, that's super unique from Conway outside of a couple of songs here and there. It's also dope seeing these songs lay the foundation for what we got on albums like From King to a God. Not my favorite song here, but I think it's pretty good. Let's close this thing out with Piece of My Heart.
Machine gun died, lost a piece of my heart. Hold up, let me speak from the heart. Well, she was here to see West Ice's neck and drive many foreigns. To see Griselda pop, to see penny floors. Stacking all this cash they pay me. 2 Ferraris in my driveway, black and navy. Packed the black 380, that's for safety.
Fire
neck look like I sold crack in the 80s. That's a fact, I keep the Mac on me daily. 6 for 6 right now. We putting up Jordan numbers, nigga.
Man, I always thought even though Conway and Westside Gunn were brothers, they look nothing alike. They sure got that same gene when it come to talking for 2 minutes on the track. I don't know why that song was 3.5 minutes, but it was fire. I was a 1.5 minute song and a 3.5 minute song body, but 6 sample. I've heard that sample is well being flipped. This came after this album came out, but Grip sampled this song on his song Con Man. I don't know the name of the sample, but it's a dope sample. And then for him to add Amber Simone's vocals on it, I think that went perfect with it. Then out of all the personal songs, this was the most introspective. Love him dedicating this song to Machine Gun Black. And then out of these last 4 songs that have been the most personal ones on the album, this one had the best lyricism. So yeah, dope closer, and overall, I think this is a pretty good album. I think regardless of how good it is, this is a really important album from Conway the Machine because it sees him expanding his horizons even more so than the first Everybody Is Food did. Up to this point, I think From King to a God and God Don't Make Mistakes are 2 of his best albums, and it's hard to see those 2 albums happening if an album like this doesn't happen. We've seen flashes of Conway being personal and introspective on a song like The Cow or a song like Bishop Shot Steel before to do it for a prolonged period of time for a stretch of 5 songs. That's uncharted territory for him, and it turned out well for the most part. Now, some of the songs he takes chances and they don't play out that well, like Cocaine Paid was one of the weaker songs on the album. A couple of the beats were light, but then some of the chances paid off tremendously, like Overdose, which was completely out of the box, or A Piece of My Heart. But then of course, best song on the album takes 0 chances at all. Just stick to the formula with Hide the Body. I'll also say, even though the rapping wasn't perfect, Conway's baseline level of lyricism in 2018 was just so high. All the verses here ranged from pretty good to excellent, at least from a rhyme structure perspective. So solid album. I don't think it was better than the first Everybody Is Fool, but still in the upper half of the Conway projects I've reviewed up to this point.